Oxi, será que eu ouvi direito? Até os ingleses agora estão prestando atenção no futebol brasileiro, velho? Mano, os caras ficaram de boca aberta com a nossa classificação pra semifinal, né, mano? E olha que não sei eu tô dizendo não, mano. Se liga nesse trecho aí do vídeo que eu vou soltar agora. E bora que aqui é Brasil, né, mano?
Love it. But no, I mean, Fluminense have been an absolute joy at this tournament. But I think that veteran leadership...
Close the gap a little bit between the best of Europe, or some of the best of Europe, and the best of Brazil. It's that the big European clubs, they're no longer taking the best players from here.
Going into this game, because Renato Gaúcho, their manager, has been like the defiant Latino against the European.
While also demonstrating that they do have talent, they do have players, they do have football, and they are Brazilian after all.
Fluminense advances to the semi-final of the FIFA Club World Cup, and this is why we love this game. Underdogs versus Inter Milan doesn't matter. Underdogs versus Al Hilal, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, as Renato Portaluppi, the coach of Fluminense, says, it's all about who wants it more. And let me tell you, this team wants it, the fans want it, and now they'll be going to MetLife Stadium for the semi-final match against Chelsea. What a game!
Great energy there from Matt Mayo. I mean, pure naturally as well. Look at the atmosphere.
Yeah. It's a big moment. It's a big, big moment if you think about it. Representing the nation, as he said, again and again and again, they've managed to just get through, and I can see why he's bubbling, because all of their fans are as well.
Fluminense, the underdogs versus what I call the swagger of Al Hilal. And it was the veterans that got them through, Liaz.
I mean, it's one of the oldest teams at the tournament, if not the oldest. They got Thiago Silva back there, but their goalkeeper is actually the one I think is going under the radar. 44 years old. The most clean sheets in football history. The guy is you talk about veteran. My goodness.
Plenty of numbers. Yeah. Clean sheets. I looked at the numbers. I was like, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, man. But no, I mean, Fluminense have been an absolute joy at this tournament. But I think that veteran leadership and the experience as well too has really done well for them in knockout football, because they just know how to get through these kinds of games.
The Samba beat still very much going at the FIFA Club World Cup 2025. Now, Chelsea to take on Fluminense in the semi-finals of the FIFA Club World Cup 2025. And it's the return of an old friend, isn't it? Thiago Silva, the old warhorse against his old club.
The legend, man. He wasn't at the club for a long time, but he is deemed a legend. In my eyes, that is a future Chelsea manager. There's no comms about it. He's learning his English. His family's still in London. So I think it's a big game. It's a big reunion, of course. It's going to be tricky. I mean, you've got suspensions to Delap, you've got suspension to Colwell, but they've been making those signings, so players can come in.
I mean, they come into this game as overwhelming favorites. Let's be real. But the problem for them, I think, is that every team that's come up against Fluminense this tournament have been big favorites. Dortmund were favorites, and they couldn't beat them. Inter, now...
Rapaziada, na minha opinião, nesse jogo contra o Palmeiras aí do Chelsea, velho, eu acho que a classificação deles tem muito pelo João Pedro, jogador brasileiro que entrou no segundo tempo, mano. Ele jogou muito bem. O que vocês acham aí?
Al Hilal as well too. So again, this isn't a side that are afraid to secede possession. They're very happy to do so. And I look at this and I think it is experience versus youth, but I look at Chelsea and I just think they have a bit too much quality and they could be on their way to the final.
Hanging on this extraordinary Fluminense story. It's now Fluminense representing the entire rest of the world against Europe. And I have to say, absolutely no one, maybe not even them, saw this coming. They went into this, of the four Brazilian teams, unquestionably number 4 in the list. They very nearly got relegated the end of last year. Come the last round of the championship, they were still in relegation danger. They managed to save themselves. They haven't no real big money reinforcements. One that they've just brought on board, a little Venezuelan winger called Soteldo. He joined them injured after the World Cup qualifiers at the start of June, and they haven't been able to get him on the field so far. So this is more or less the same players that very nearly got relegated last year, and here they are in the best 4 of the world. Oh, what a story! Oh, what a ride!
So, Tim, Sorry, Tim, I was going to say, we all thought it was going to be Thiago Silva's last big moment, almost in contrast with the rest of his career, that he helped Fluminense escape relegation. And in fact, it looks like this is the next last big moment of his career. And these two old guys who are making a massive, massive impact for them in this huge tournament for them.
Yeah, and Fabio, the goalkeeper, 44. I saw a lot of him growing up. He was a contemporary of Julio César, who went on, of course, to Inter Milan. When they were coming through the ranks, I used to think that Fabio was the better of the two. And there were years when I thought that he was saving Vasco da Gama from relegation. His form just dipped at a vital time. And although Brazil carried him around for a while, he never got on the field for Brazil, never played for Brazil. So this tournament is every World Cup there's ever been for him, and he's rising to the occasion. The entire team are rising to the occasion. I can't see him getting past Chelsea, but I have to be honest, I couldn't see him getting past Inter Milan. I couldn't see him getting past Al Hilal, and here they are. Yes, the Colombian, I think he's a candidate for the player of the tournament so far. And it's almost insane that he's still playing in South American club football. Well, obviously someone's going to buy him, and they still haven't. And the thinking behind this, and this is the way that the market has gone, he's 27 now, and the European market wants 18-year-olds. Now, this is one of the things that I think has helped close the gap a little bit between the best of Europe, or some of the best of Europe, and the best of Brazil. It's that the big European clubs, they're no longer taking the best players from here. They're taking the biggest promises. And so there's more stability with the sides now. Sides are losing the wonder kids. I mean, Esteban, for example, now leaves Palmeiras to join Chelsea. But the good players who glue the side together, they're not being sold anymore. And this means that someone like John Arias can have a sensational campaign.
To break down Tuesday match, though, with us is CBS Sports Brazilian football analyst, none other than Mbizo Zumani. Mbizo, bom dia, tudo bem?
Tudo bem, meu irmão, tudo bem.
Well, can I get your perspective on Fluminense and this Club World Cup? I mean, what would it mean for the tournament if Flu make it past Chelsea into a final?
Well, I think that's a great question, Mike. I think firstly for the tournament, I think it would mean it's a success. I think until this point, it has already been a success. But I think to see a team that's outside of Europe make it that far after so much time in Club World Cups, I think the last victory by a Brazilian was in 2012. I think Corinthians, and just to see that there's football all over the world, I think would be a huge plus for FIFA and for football. From the Brazilian landscape, I think it may be hyperbole, but I think Fluminense in the final reignites Brazil's belief in their potential to compete at the highest level and perhaps restore some self-image, some self-esteem amidst some difficulties at the Seleção. I don't think their Carioca and Rio de Janeiro rivals would see Fluminense's success as such, but I think outside of that city, I think for the rest of us, they are certainly carrying Brazil's flag, and we're delighted to see how well they're doing, and certainly do hope that they make it into the final.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at the likes of Botafogo, of Flamengo, of the Brazilian teams that were in this Club World Cup, Fluminense, Mbizo probably was the one on the outside looking in because they have the least budget from everybody else. But I kind of like the storyline going into this game because Renato Gaúcho, their manager, has been like the defiant Latino against the Europeans at this Club World Cup. He historically has dismerited the Italian football when he played there, saying that it's pure catenaccio. They just loft it forward and drop back. He manages to progress into the semifinals. So it does feel like this is a refreshing take from Renato going into the semifinal.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to remember that, Fluminense is not even the best team in Brazil, as you mentioned, very much an outsider, nor do they currently have the best Brazilian players, in my opinion. And they're competing against some of the best from other countries, national team players. And of course, football is a lot more complex than that, but there is certainly a psychological impact there. However, I would advise Renato to take it back a notch because he's actually been winning, or rather been progressing with something that's close to and similar to catenaccio, because Fluminense has done this with very little possession. I mean, am I right? They suffered versus Sundowns with very little possession. They suffered versus Inter with the same. They had less possession than Al Hilal and Dortmund. But the point is, they're getting the job done. And I think their experience has been invaluable. His experience as well has been invaluable. His temperament, his perspective, and his defiance is the word that I think he used, which is a perfect description.
Well, he's doing it in a different way. This flu side, if you're seeing, age is just a number. Well, they have one of the oldest sides in the Club World Cup. I think 6 of their players in their 11 are, 34 and older. They're going against a Chelsea side that they're the young bucks of this Club World Cup. I mean, what sort of advantage does age and the experience of this togetherness of this flu side that's been there and done that, Libertadores, have potentially against Chelsea?
Yes, spot on there, Mikey. I once discussed my concern about Fluminense's age on Galazzo. I referred to it as a retirement home with a lot of players coming back from Europe. And last year they actually struggled in the Brazilian League, and I think that was perhaps because of how many games they had and the age and the wear and tear. They've been a bit better this year, and I think it's because they have played less games. And of course, contrary to most public intimations, Brazilian teams play more football than European teams. And so that has really worn on them, I think, when they've been playing down here in Brazil. But in the World Club Cup, this experience, this wisdom, it's been extremely valuable. I mean, if you think about how Thiago Silva was able to change the game versus Al Hilal and advise Renato Gaúcho on what he believes the tactical approach should be because of what's happening on the field. I mean, these are things that you can only get from experienced, from older players who are all understanding, who have all been through this. And again, like I said, when you're at that age where you've been through so much, you not only know how to play, but you also know how to soak up pressure and how to suffer. Down here in Brazil, they refer to teams being able to suffer to get the victory. It's a very Libertadores type approach, type idea to getting the job done, even when the football is not so beautiful. And I think Fluminense has been able to do that while also demonstrating that they do have talent, they do have players, they do have football, and they are Brazilian after all.
Yeah, listen, and talk about Libertadores. And Renato's been to a Libertadores final not once, but twice. The very first time with Grêmio, taking them all the way, right? It was pretty impressive. And you talk about that experience. I look at a guy like Thiago Silva, not only the experience, but the leadership qualities as well. Getting everybody to believe in that dressing room, get on board. You look at a guy like Germán Cano, which we haven't mentioned, their goal scorer, a record-breaking goal scorer for Fluminense, arguably in the best form of his career in his late 30s, right? So it's just pretty incredible to see how it all kind of comes together with Fluminense. But then you pair it with a guy like John Arias, for example, on Fluminense, a younger Colombian player that's kind of starting to really make a name for himself, already been on the national team, but he's really that difference maker. In Spanish, I really like the word that we use, el diferente, the different one. Who's gonna be that? O diferenciado in Portuguese. Who's gonna be that guy? And oftentimes for Fluminense, if it's gonna be anybody in Bizo, it's gonna be John Arias.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, he's demonstrated his quality. I've been a huge fan of his for quite some time. And down here, people already know of his talent, know of his quality. In fact, many Brazilian fans might argue that he's the best player in the Brazilian league at the moment. I'm not so sure that I would necessarily share that perspective, but he's certainly among the top ones. So his performances for us who are familiar with his game has not been surprising. So like I said, there is talent, not just in Brazil, but all over the world, and that's been on display vis-a-vis teams like Fluminense, vis-a-vis teams like Sundowns, who perhaps fell out, but certainly demonstrated that they can play against the best.
Now, when we get to knockout competition, yes, strikers win you matches, but goalkeepers and center backs, they're usually the difference. And Flu, they have a very experienced goalkeeper in Fabio. I mean, the guy's defying father time. He keeps getting better and better with each match that he plays, and he's on the verge of achieving history within the calendar year. I mean, he's 8 shy of equaling Peter Shilton, I believe, his all-time professional appearance record. I mean, what would it be and what would it mean for a goalkeeper like that, not just to get this record, but to put in another stellar performance against the likes of Chelsea?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's the oldest goalkeeper in the world, right? Something like over 1,300 matches, 150 for Fluminense, some 790 for Cruzeiro, which a lot of people forget is one of the giants of Brazilian football. He's certainly not a household name, but he is among the legends of Brazilian football. And he actually does join a long and illustrious list of players who've never played for the Seleção, despite having such an incredible body of work. He joins the likes of Alex, Marcelinho Carioca, Neto, who just simply never had space. But again, despite his comparative lack of fame, he's one of Brazil's greatest goalkeepers of all time. But it is also, I think, important to note and put in perspective that in Brazil, there's always existed this dichotomy of young and old, which Fluminense is demonstrating for us at this cup. Players in their prime from Brazil are exported to Europe. It's still one of the largest exporters of footballers on the globe. And so you have your young, talented, and some of the best going to Europe, but then you have some of these older players who are either returning from Europe or who've spent their entirety of their career here in Brazil. And you'll have this, there's this 16-year-old, 17-year-old who's coming into the limelight, and then you'll have this 44-year-old, 45-year-old who's now at the end of his career, but has done incredible things and is helping the clubs continue to rise. And so it's such a typical demonstration of what it means to be a Brazilian football, for what it means to be a player in Brazil. And it's just beautiful to see. And we all obviously hope that he does smash any records that are still left to hit.
Yeah, he's still got a lot of football left to be played. And Bizo, thank you very much. Obrigado, that's right?
Obrigado
muito.
De nada.
Valeu.
Valeu. Obrigado, valeu. Okay.
Wonderful, boys.
That's
Wonderful.
CBS Sports Brazilian football analyst Mbizo Zamani. Thank you as always. Now.
Rapaziada, esse aí foi o vídeo. Espero que vocês tenham gostado. Curta, comenta e compartilha. Me segue aí. Valeu, falou. E é nóis, mano.